Leviticus chapter 27 verse 30. Leviticus chapter 27 verse 30. Your tithe is 1/10 of your earning. Bring it down a bit. And other incomes. God demands it and even classifies non-compliance as robbers. So when you don't comply with your obligation of tithe, the caption that you receive is that you're a thief. Because it belongs to him and he has a legal right to it. So give us Leviticus 27:30. Let's see it on the screen. Let's read together. One to go. And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is what? The Lord's. It's what? It's what? It is what? Holy unto the Lord. Let's read it again so you can, I'll be sure you got it. Let's read one to go. And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy unto the Lord. It is what? Holy unto the Lord. This is the fundamental blessing when it has to do with the prosperity of the kingdom. The obligation of tithe is a prerequisite to entering into the blessings of God. That for everything God gives you, he has his own. It is not by choice. It is essential, it is mandatory. So tithe is not a choice decision. It's a compulsory and mandatory one. That for everything you have, you bring out God's own. When you don't do it, he calls you a thief. God calls you a robber. And so it is our obligation. The number one thing I do at every point of income is to separate my tithe. I am very uncompromising at this. As blessings comes my way, I give to God that which belongs to him promptly. It is on this note that we don't give but pay. Tithe is not giving, it's payment. Did you hear what I said? Tithe is not what? Giving. Is what? Payment. Whether you like it or not, you pay. Because that one originally belongs to God. There's no negotiation with it. That is no, God, the money is not complete. God, the money is half. You pay full. So the obligation of tithe is very compulsory. The Bible said when you don't do it, it calls you a thief. So it is on this note we don't give. You don't give your tithe, you pay your tithe. That's why we don't say come and give your tithe. We say come and do what? Pay. It's a debt you are owing. You must pay. And when you do that, you command a blessing. You don't give to someone you owe him. Rather, you pay it as a debt. That's why I say it's a debt. If you say you are not going to pay, you will pay. Because you are tithed in the spirit as a criminal. Tithing is obligatory and non-negotiable. In remittance of it, the prayer's view or opinion is not required. In your payment of tithe, according to the scriptures, your opinion is not required. Your suggestion is not expected. Just pay and don't talk. You pay your tithe. Our tithe is the service charge we pay to God. Our tithe is what? A service charge you pay to God. It's a service charge. By the grace of God, I have been in practice of tithing since 1979, when I earned my first pay of 96 Nigerian currency, 96 naira. As an office clerk, I usually don't give God in fractions of figures. I always give him in excess so he can owe me. So when you bless God, I was praying on yesterday, and while I was praying to God, I was here praying for hours. So I said I needed a specific amount added to my account so that it can help me to run my transactions with God for the Sunday. While I was praying, I sent a message. The Lord said, send this message and check on this. Well, I was praying for this person, and the moment the person received and said, okay, this is still remaining, the response to it was that specific amount I asked God I needed on my account. And then on that quick response, I added 3 more hours and prayed for this person for 3 hours before I left. You know, when we started this year, there was something I told us, and most of us usually forget it. I wish it will go back to those 21 days and sit down with your system and your pen or your iPad or your phone and watch again. I said, number one thing, if you must be successful this year, you must have what? An intercessor. I know you have forgotten. You must have an intercessor. You must have what? A spiritual father, clearly identified, clarified, sanctified, and glorified. And then I said, you must have what? A mentor and a what? Role model. You don't have it this year, it will tell. You better get yourself an intercessor. So while I was praying, that thing came. So whenever you give to God, whenever you pay your tithe, God owes you. He does what? He owes you. Tithing tightens us to God. Tithing tightens us to God. Tightens ties us to God. When you pay your tithe, you tie yourself to God. You tie yourself to God. Tie yourself to God. Let me tell you one of the things that we don't understand. I picked up 2 individuals and I said to myself, these 2 people must have a financial shake. And they responded by heavy seeds. Heavy seeds. The Lord said to me, not just will you fast 72 days, but for the next 2 weeks, from 6 to a certain number of time, I will not tell you the time, you'll be praying for them. Listen, when God receives your tithe, that tithe tightens you to God. God begins to give an ear to things that concern you. Your relevance with God begins to increase. The mystery of financial fortunes begins with the practice of tithing. You may wonder why. It is because your tithe connects you to all-sufficient God, the El Shaddai. Tithing is our financial umbilical cord. Whenever you talk about the umbilical cord, is what is like a rope that connects the child to the mother. So that umbilical cord is what the child feeds on. So for every time we pay our tithe to God, we get connected to God. We get connected to His agenda. We get connected to His plan. We get connected to His purposes. And that's how He keeps on bringing and blessing us. So when you pay your tithe, you connect yourself by umbilical cord of heaven to God. And you will enjoy anonymous supply. So which guarantees our financial well-being, just as the fetus in the womb survives only by what the mother supplies through the umbilical cord. The moment the cord is cut off, the baby will cease to exist. We cannot survive without tithing as far as financial abundance is concerned. The first time I heard this, I said, how? And then I began to check ministers, apostles and prophets. When it gets to the tithing, they will tell you when they started. When they started. When they started. And I saw that tithing is not just a blessing, it's an assurance of financial protection. If God gives you 10,000, how much is your tithe? Huh? Why is it difficult for us to give it? God gives you 100 million. How much is your tithe? Eh? If God gives you 100 million, how much is your tithe? 10 million now. People say, 10 million. Do you know how many plots of land it will buy? Well, you keep your 10 million, you lose the 90. The essence of it is that no matter what you do, you will still, that money that you don't want to give, you still give it. So your tithe, you must be up and doing on that area. Your tithe makes sense when you obey punctually. That is something I wanted to teach us, but probably maybe like next week. Delayed obedience is no longer obedience. Delayed what? Do you know what is a delayed obedience? God says, go to the church and get a seat. And God told you that thing today. And then eventually, you delay. You know what will happen? When you did it, it's no longer obedience. You'll be blessed, but not like you should have been blessed. Now let me tell you this story. Sometime 2 weeks ago, someone's mom came to me and I said, tell my child they should go and clean the village house. And then I told them they were delaying. The guy had accident. So when I called him and said, Mama said we should go and clean the village. He said, hey, if I don't have accident, what else does she want? I said, laughing. Whenever God tells you to do something, He wants to prevent something. Delayed obedience is not obedience. So when you are walking with God, God said, do this. That's all. As at that time he gave you that instruction is when he's carrying weight. If you lose it at that moment, you eventually lose it. So your tithe is necessary. And your tithe helps you to maintain discipline. You know your income, right? It helps you to know your weekly income so that you can, what came in this week. And then you know what came in last week. You know at the end of the month what came in. You also know. So tithing is one of the responsibility that makes you financially mature. You are able to manage the things that comes in. The story of Abraham paints a vital picture. You will notice that Abraham gave the tithe. He was addressed as Abraham of the Most High God. This is not a title but a covenant linkage between the two of them. At this stage, there was no longer a line of division in their individual possession. It has become a commonwealth. Now, let me tell you this. When you want to go and marry, what do you do? Huh? Talk to me now. If you want to marry now, if you want to go and get married, what do? You pay what? Eh? You pay your dowry now. Is it not? This one females are not talking. It's like most of you did not pay your dowry. Are you on high purchase? Alright. So you pay your dowry. That payment, you don't give it. It's not by choice. Right? That dowry you're paying is a tithe. It is on the note of that dowry payment that the lady is now joined to you. That's why when you come to church, the question that we will ask you as the priest is, has every traditional obligations been accomplished? You will now say yes. You say, bring your father, bring your mother. Who are the people that are witness? That's a court section. And then when you have fully paid the dowry, it's okay. Now based on that, based on what? That payment. That payment you have made becomes a place of right that you are now joined. Is it the woman that pays? Eh? Even if the woman that gave you the money, she's not the one that paid. It's not even bad for the woman to say, my husband, take this one and come and pay my dowry. But if the woman does it, it is not the woman that paid, it is you that paid. So that bride price that you are paying, you know that the real bride price money, I don't think any village is up to 3,000 naira. I don't think. I think from my own area, I think it's 5 naira or 10 naira. 20 naira, okay. 60 naira. 60 naira, okay. 10 naira. 3 naira. Can you imagine? So you see how small that thing is. Then all the other ones they just write on the list is for criminals. 5 cartons of beer, 100 pieces of yam, 2 cartons of schnapp, 15 cartons of Guinness malt, 1 jar of tombolewo. What again? It's all those ones. Omona. Omona. That is why Holy Ghost help me. 25 pieces of lost soap. When we went to get married to admin's wife, everything was 1,000. 100 pieces. Now they wrote, I can't forget that statement, 100 pieces of sizable yam. These people took time to count. They'll check the size. So okay. They will now drop. By the time I press calculator, I said that's 1 mic and JBL for them. That's a very big problem. So all those ones that you are now doing is for money. The real thing. That's why when you say I'm not marrying again, woman will not give you back what they fit, you know. Because that one is entertainment. Item 7 is what? Item 7. The real deal is that one that you will return back, whether to the AC or to the chief, and say, we've agreed, we're not doing again. And then you can break coconut. What about the goat? You know, there's a goat you now send. How about that goat? They almost have taken that one. So the tithe is what brings us together with God. Is the little one. Is 10% back? It is 10 out of 100, but it is what is like a dowry payment. Are we together? Is a dowry payment that brings us in tight position with God. It ties us to God. So that your dowry payment are paying is the tithe. That's why when you now receive that money, they will now look at it and say, this money, we are not selling our tithe to you, right? After all, it's only 15 naira that you brought here. Is there any other money you brought? You say no. But how about the other one? You see what the wedding is going to cost you. Wedding gown, Ashebi, Ashrigebi, and others. Those ones are there, right? But you see that little one that you are paying is your tithe. And that's the most important one. The father can say, don't buy chieftaincy for me. Like Ungwa people, you buy Legady's Benz. You buy bicycle. 1 trailer load of yam. After we went to Isialangwa South, we produced an unwritten law that you should be careful when you are falling in love. So the mother can say, I don't need the clothes. The father can say, I don't need the clothes, right? But they can never say they don't need the dowry. So your prophetic seed and other seeds is, at your own discretion. You decide what it is. But you can never say you are not going to give your tithe. That's the fundamentals. That's the foundation. Your offering, God has an expectation, but it's your decision. If you want to grow, you give more. Right? That's the same thing with your prophetic seed. Many of us don't. In fact, 99% of us don't even know what prophetic seed is. So that's another one. But then your tithe is the fundamental. Genesis chapter 14, 19 to 20. When you allow God to own your tithe, He allows you to own His wealth. When you allow God to own your tithe, He allows you to do what? Own your wealth. And He blessed him and said, Blessed be Abraham of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, which had delivered thy enemies into thy hand. And He gave him tithes of all. Please, let's read this verse 20 together. Want to go now? And blessed be the Most High God, who had delivered thy enemies into thy hand. And He gave what? You see that the tithe ensures victory. It ensures what? Victory. it establishes victory over your enemies. And so when you are giving the tithes, you are ensuring victory over your enemies. I will take one question if there is. All right. So your tithe ensures victory over enemies. All right.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, church. In corresponding with the tithe issue, I've had some conspiracies about people saying they do give tithes only when they have an income, a source of income. Because I was talking to some set of students one time. Then we were actually talking about the scripture. So we now invaded the matter of tithing and giving. Then I was trying to explain some things, but their stand was they are not yet earning, they are still collecting money from their parents. They don't have the right to pay tithes. Is that a rightful way of paying tithes? Or
if you check the first passage, it said all your income, even if the seed, animal, fruit, everything they touch. If you start selling markets now, you start selling fan. The first fan you sowed is your first fruit. Belongs to God. I got into football administration. The first money I got was 1 million, and I gave it to church. I didn't take a dime out of that money. That's how we got here with the church. It's not negotiable. You don't think about it.
Okay, so what if the person is a student, like the person is not working? Because this question came out from the student area.
We are together now. You receive pocket money, right? Is it your parents that tells you how to spend the money? Who owns the money? It's your money. It's the same thing as someone who works with the government and government pays you salary. So long as that money is your possession and you determine the expenditure of that money, that's your income. That's your income. I'm not asking you to do this, but I did it. Anytime I receive school fees from my first year to final year, I will sow it as a seed like that. The thing will come back again, I'll sow it again. To come back again, and then the third time is when I'll pay. And from first year to final year, it never failed. There are ways, this thing we are doing today and is working. We didn't start today. There was places that we have done stuff that will go to sleep concerning certain areas of our life, while we give time and focus to some certain areas. The money you receive as a student, let's say it's 40,000 a month. That's your income. How much is there as tithe? How much is there now? 4,000 naira. Is 4,000 too big for you to give to God? Let us even say it's 100,000 they're giving you. How much is your tithe? Do you know what is 10%? Nobody here can live without a supernatural supply based on 10%. You can't. If it's 1 million, how much is your tithe? 100,000. Would you allow one to destroy 9? Don't worry, there is a show I will give us probably by next Sunday, so you can understand what that tithe. He said, I will cause the devourer for your sake. Okay, let's Malachi chapter 3 verse 10. You've taken us to a place I wanted to conclude. People will eat it and then they will say God did not bless them. Who told you? Start from verse 7, Malachi chapter 3. Let's see from verse 7. What is the tithe? Even from the days of our fathers, you have gone away from my ordinances and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, said the Lord of hosts. But you said, wherein shall we return? This is a question. Next. Will a man rob God? God is replying to them. They are asking God, how did you move away from the ordinances of our fathers? Then God said to them, return unto me, then I will return back to you. And then they started asking him a question. I said, how do we return back to you? Then what he answered them is with a question. They asked him a question. He answered with a question. He said, will a man rob God? Yet he have robbed me. But he say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and what? One of the greatest reasons people don't pay their tithe is, number one, trust in God. They don't believe that what is left is enough. Eventually, if you keep that one you still have, it will not still be enough. That's the major problem. Now, next verse. He said, in tithe and in what? In offerings. Now he said, ye are what? Cursed with a curse. For you have robbed me, even this whole nation. Next verse. Bring ye all the tithe into where? The storehouse, that there might be what? Meat in my house. And prove me now herewith, said the Lord of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven and do what? And pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be enough room to what? Next verse, key. Now, when you have fulfilled the obligation of tithe, and God has opened the windows of heaven and has poured you out a blessing, he said there is a problem with the blessing. You don't have enough room to contain it. Now, when that part has been fulfilled, he said, I will rebuke the devourer for your sake. Number one. And he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field. Somebody, you are expecting to harvest your avocado pea and take them to market. Before they already ripe, all of them are on the ground. This is this problem. Your mango, you are waiting for it to get ripe, and they are just falling without ripening. You say, which kind of mango is this? You cannot even wait, and it's falling, it's wasted on the ground. It's the devourer stack. Now, neither shall your vine cast their fruit before the time in the field, said the Lord of hosts. Next verse. And all nations shall call you what? Blessed. For ye shall be what? A delightsome land, said the Lord of hosts. Next verse. Your words have been stored against me, said the Lord. Yet ye say, what have we spoken so much against thee? Now, in your ways of dodging tithe, you will say a lot of things. Find a lot of excuses, like your friends. That 4K, if they bring out the expenditure of how they spend the 40,000, let's say it's 40,000, you will see a careless lost 4,000. So when you understand the nature of what God is trying to help you do, he said, you are stealing from me. I have checked your offering, you were a thief. I have checked your tithe, you were a thief. You cannot be any, let's say in a month, whether by business or by any way, you are any 100,000, and your offering is 1,000 naira. You're a thief. Because that your offering and your tithe is a measure of your gratitude to God. So when you give to God, God is checking the level of your gratitude. God is checking the level of your thank you very much. Let's rise on our feet and pray. Can you begin to ask the Lord to forgive you of the previous tithes, of the previous offering that you have not measured up? Speak to him and ask him to forgive you and cleanse you. And make a promise that from today you'll be financially responsible to the kingdom. You'll be financially responsible to the things of the covenant. Speak to him, speak to him. Speak to him. Just begin to pray in the spirit. Just begin to pray and speak to him. Just begin to speak to him. 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 Speak to him and ask him that you are sorry, that he should forgive you, that you are determined to be financially responsible as regarding to tithe, as regarding to your offerings. Likota banana baso pelete ketadia balakobaya. Zenian delana dokovali briliata. Speak to him and speak to him. Speak to him, speak to him, speak to him. Speak to him, speak to him, speak to him. Speak to him, speak to him. Ask him to sanctify, cleanse you. That you are making a vow today that your finances are coming alive. You are going to obey the principles of tithings. You are going to obey the principle of offerings. He said he will cause the devourer for your sake. 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 Child of God, pray, 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 pray.